Oh, you may not have heard anything I said. That was weird. I didn't mute the mic, but it was muted. Strange things happen sometimes. So, once again, Daniel Aaron with you. Thank you so much for joining me, whether you are with me live or by rebroadcast. And this particular live stream is all about what I would say is one of the absolute most important things in the world, right? My life, my business, my work is all oriented toward helping you to make your life a masterpiece. And one thing I know for sure is in order to do that, there are some steps. It's not accidental. It takes some intention. And this one today is one of those most essential steps. It's compassionate self-forgiveness. Now, because this is a live stream, it's a little bit different than some other things I do. I do mastery sessions, which are sometimes called webinars, right? I offer training programs and I work with clients in coaching. This, though, is a little bit more casual. It's an opportunity for us to interact. I've got an exciting program here to share with you what I have found to be the most useful and essential parts of compassionate self-forgiveness. And I'm going to lay some of that out for you. Though if you are here with me live right now, please chime in and say, where are you? What's going on? And let me bring up where I can see those kind of comments. That's always helpful. Let's see. Jim, all right, welcome. Hey, that's cool you are here. And y'all, if you are not watching live and you come in by rebroadcast, please drop some comments at any point, and included with that, any questions you have along the way. So on that note, I'm going to bring up my slides here because I prepared something for y'all. I got something to show you, something I think is quite amazing and cool. And so bear with me as I get that set up here, and we will boom, set that up and go over here back to our broadcasting platform and present, share screen. We'll do it that way. Yeah, perfect. And let's go for a window. There it is. Perfect. So I'm guessing you, oh, no, almost. You are seeing now my slides. And is that the way we want to show it to you? Let's see if we do it that way. Yeah, no, let's give it the bigger way. I like that better. All right, we'll give you the bigger way. Like that. Yeah, okay, good. So now you're seeing my slides. Awesome. And let's make sure that I can click them forward. So again, the way this works with a live stream situation, y'all, is that it's great because we can interact. I confess, though, I am not a wizard when it comes to to multitasking. So I won't be like reading comments every second. However, I will pause periodically, take a breath, take a sip of water, and see what you got to say, what questions you have. What I would really love for these sessions to be, and I'm going to be doing more of them. So if you're seeing this be by rebroadcast, stay tuned for future ones live, because when you show up live, then we can customize it to you, your questions, your comments, your chance to give input, as well as a chance for me to work with people individually, give some coaching that you might not get if you're not enrolled in a program with me. So again, all of this is to help you make your life a masterpiece. And what I believe about that is that it's not only an opportunity, not only a birthright for you, I say it's actually an obligation. And part of that is because now more than ever before, we know how to do it. It's not rocket surgery. It used to be something very far off, though the technology, and technology just means the scientific application, the application of scientific methods for practical purposes. We've got that now. So let's get into it to the next level. And this is all, I'm going to just breeze through this next part. When we get to compassionate self-forgiveness, it's good to understand why that is so important. Because first, what we're looking at is the incredible power we have as human beings, the power that we cannot ever escape, which is that we are always creating, and we are always creating ourselves. And one of the ways we do it is through magic, in the sense of the word abracadabra, which means through my words, through my speaking, I create. Good news, bad news. Everybody's doing it all the time. The bad news, most people are doing it accidentally by default, and they're doing it in ways that lead to results that they don't want. That's why most people in the world have situations and their life is outpictured from their inner world in ways that they are not thrilled with, right? Self-creation, such an important concept. A nod to my teacher, coach, friend, Steve Hardison. He helped me to see another lens on this age-old concept of being, which is the foundation of self-creation. That's the thumbnail from a YouTube video I created that goes into more depth on that. We're going to breeze forward, though, get into what's called a declaration or a document, or I call it the manifesto. And it's really, it's our idea of who we are on the inside becomes what we live on the outside, which brings us to the concept of, do you know? The concept here of affirmations. And the big question, do they work? Of course, you know what affirmations are. I am beautiful, I'm wonderful, I'm successful, I'm rich, I am getting better every day, people love me, whatever. You know, these statements about what we're affirming that we want to be, they can work. But most of the time, not only do they not work, they actually make it things worse, because people say, I am beautiful, but then in some other part of them goes, nah, you're ugly. Or we say, you know, I am rich, and go, nah, you're barely getting by. You know, whatever it is, that underneath talk, that's really the key of what we're looking at today. Steve calls that process of trying to affirm, trying to create self on top of these negative self-judgments, that is putting frosting on poop, right? Putting frosting on poop. Don't change the taste. Another way to look at it is it's trying to build the castle of who you are, build yourself, build your identity on top of quicksand. It's just not a foundation that works. So I'm going to double check that we are still recording here, because I'm not seeing the time elapsed, which is kind of weird. I usually do see that. I see, well, it says end the stream, which implies the stream is still going. So I guess we're still going. If you're there, if anybody's there, let me know so I can double check that. Always good to get some confirmation, but that's okay. And so let's go onward. The second part of this concept here is really well exemplified by Thoreau's quotation: if you have built castles in the air, your work need not be lost. That is where they should be. Now put the foundations under them. And the foundation all the way to the ground, the solid ground upon which your self-creation exists. And without the solid foundation, self-creation is not only meaningless, worthless, mostly, it's probably counterproductive. And that foundation is forgiveness. In other words, let's go back a moment to where we were just a moment ago, where most people, and this is true for me for sure, and literally every person I know and every client I've ever worked with, we carry with us a bunch of negative self-concepts, judgments, self-recriminations, ways that we put ourselves down. So, you know, if this makes sense to you so far, right, then the obvious question becomes, well, how do we? All right, excellent. Thank you, Lubna, for chiming in. The concept here is, well, let's fix the quickstand. Let's take care of the poop. Let's heal that faulty foundation, the hole in the bucket that keeps all our good efforts draining out. And it's actually a very simple thing to do. Everybody can do it, including you, including me. It's been extremely powerful for me personally, and it is forgiveness, or specifically compassionate self-forgiveness. And we can make a little distinction here between forgiving myself and forgiving others. And ultimately, it's not really different because as I forgive others, I forgive myself. And as I forgive myself, I forgive others. So our focus today is on forgiving ourself, right? And let me just come off of the screen share for a minute so I can let's see, how do we do that? Let's go back here. There we go. All right. So coming back to you, just you and me here now. Um, if it's making sense so far, and if you know that you have some negative self judgments, and for most of us, we've been carrying them our whole lives, decades. Me personally, as I came to a new level of understanding of this not long ago, I was shocked. So if this makes sense to you, please, just type in a yes or a yeah or a uh-huh or something like that, so that I know that this is making sense. If it's not making sense, say, hey, I don't get it. It's not making sense. And feel free to put in a question if you have it before I go on. Right. I'm intentionally pausing myself because that's the beauty of this format is we can have more of a dialogue. If there's nothing there, that's okay. I'm happy to go on. I can talk until the cows go home about this stuff. It's so valuable, so important. So moving on, the next level is once we recognize, well, actually, let's go back to that. How do we know that we have poop to take care of? How do we know that we've got some foundation that's quicksand like? Well, one, if we're human, we probably do. Two, unless we've really done a specific process to take care of this, we probably do. And me, I've been into personal and spiritual development for 28 years, obsessed with it. It's been my career. And it's not like this is the first time I learned about forgiveness. It is, however, fascinating to me that I never quite clicked that, hey, I really need to do that. It's not enough to know what to do. We have to do what we know, right? Does that make sense? Do you know what I'm talking about? Information isn't enough. And my encouragement to you right now, again, whether you're with me live or by rebroadcast, is don't just take this in as information or entertainment. Instead, say, I'm gonna do something with that, right? Not I'm gonna someday. No, instead say I do commit right now to applying what I'm learning here. If it makes sense to you, if you resonate with this, then please make that commitment to yourself to do something with it. And this was the huge key for me. I got it. And I realized, like, yeah, some of the things that I have affirmed have not come true in my life. And why is that? Oh, it's because I've got these negative self judgments. So the first step in the process, right, if you're with it so far, the first step is to say, okay, I admit it. There may be negative self judgments, self recriminations. So I am now committed to engaging with them, being in the process with them. I will pay attention, open my eyes, my ears, my heart. I will be on the alert to discover these. Now, it takes awareness and it takes courage. Right? I have a friend, a colleague who works with this in a course he created, and he calls this part of his course Hell Week. Why? Huh. Because for so many people, myself included, many of my clients, when we say, okay, let's see, let's do this, let's get into it, right? We have to, right? If we want to create, and we all want to create more consciously, right? That's why you're here with me. Then we have to do that. So say, okay, well, let's get into it. I'm going to do it. It means opening up to realizing, and I'll say it in very esoteric and lofty terms, realizing how we have been beating the shit out of ourselves for a long time, right? I'll give you an example. I got into this process a while back, and I've done a lot of healing around my body, my self image. I was a fat kid. I struggled a lot with my body image. I really didn't like myself. I thought obsessively about food and body. And over time, in my mid 20s, I got in shape and I lost the fat and I got to be, even quite fit. Still, though, I carried around some negative imagery, negative judgment about myself. And honestly, I thought I'd taken care of it pretty well. And a while back, I'm going through my morning routine after I'd said, yeah, I'm going to be on the alert for this self judgment. Carrying through my morning routine, I stand on the scale. And I'm doing that not because I'm on a diet and trying to watch every pound I have or anything. I do that because it's a part of the wisdom of noticing things, measuring things, tracking things. Right. So I do this in the morning, do it in the evening, and get on the scale. It's part of what I'm doing. And I look down, and it's a digital scale, so the numbers are not quite formed yet. And I realized I am going to judge whatever the number comes up, I'm going to make that mean I suck, right? Either it's going to be too high, which means, oh, I'm too fat, or it's going to be too low, which means I need to get stronger. Right. And so here's one of the fascinating things, and I'll expand on this a little bit later. It doesn't so much matter what the judgment is. It's really the process of judging. I could judge myself as too fat, or I could judge myself as too skinny. What the content of the judgment is secondary to the fact that I'm judging myself. And whenever we're judging, we're not loving. Whenever we're judging, we've got quicksand and poop. So I'll tell you in a moment the process of how this works, right? So many other people I know have gotten into this in different ways. I have a client who works with creative arts, a painter, and she recently was applying for a what is it called, like an award, and to make the application, on the way to it, so much beating the self, right? So much, I'm not good enough, I can't do this. And sometimes we get confused. We think that beating ourselves up is motivation. It's not. No, it just gets in the way. It takes energy away from what we're doing. Beautifully, wonderfully, courageously, she caught herself in that and applied the process that I'm going to teach you in a moment. So, again, first stage of this process for you is to say, okay, I'm going to open myself up, open up my awareness. I'm going to be on the lookout for ways that I am judging myself. I'll give you one more example. I was on, and I feel like I've gone through the bulk of this, right? And when I first opened it up, it was a tough week. I cried a lot during that week. It was more like 10 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I don't know. There a lot came up, and now not so much comes up. However, I'm still on the alert for it. And it wasn't long ago, a couple months ago, maybe, I was on a call with someone. It was somebody new I was getting to know. And as we were talking, she said something about a teacher that she'd been with. And I said, oh, yes, I know that teacher. And yes, I read, I think I read 8 books of his. And this is a little embarrassing, but because I forgive myself and because I love myself, I share with you, and also in hopes that it's helpful for you. It wasn't true what I said. I had not read 8 books, right? I'd read maybe 3 of his books. I know the titles of probably 12 of his books. So when I realized afterwards, like, what just happened? I said, oh, I exaggerated. I exaggerated in order to, why did I do that? In order to try to make myself seem bigger, better, smarter, more committed. I don't know exactly, but to try and make myself different than I was, because, do you get it? What was I compensating for? Because I had a negative self-judgment. I had this judgment about myself that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't, smart enough or committed enough or whatever it was. So, stage 1, open up the perspective, be on the lookout for it. Stage 2 is notice when we have some beating up of self, some negative self-judgment. And then the third part is take care of it, right? This is the take care of the poop, cleaning up the quicksand, filling it in. This is where we do a process. And I'm hesitant even to call it a process because you can't make it by rote. It's not going to work if you just do it as a checklist. Okay, I do this and this and this and this. Because, as Neville Goddard says, feeling is the key. Feeling it is what matters. And so the process works like this. Get aware of the self-judgment. Create a space. I think of it this way, and you can see if this works for you. I need to, once I become aware of it, I need to create a space. Like I put a bubble around myself so that I know I won't be disturbed for a few moments. I have a sense of safety for myself that I can go within. I can go within without being disturbed, right? Where I feel safe. And then I'm going to use a specific phrasing. And the phrasing is like this: I forgive myself for judging myself as, and then I fill in the blank. I forgive myself for judging myself as too fat. I forgive myself for judging myself as fat. I forgive myself for judging myself as not smart enough, right? Whatever it is, right? And we say that phrase with the understanding that it's going to not work. It's going to be meaningless unless we feel it. So we say it and allow the feeling to be there. And this, y'all, is the key part. You got to feel it, because when you feel it, wow, that's powerful. And every time I've done this, it's brought me to a feeling, it's brought me to tears, because I realize suddenly, and I realize, meaning it becomes real for me, how much I've been hurting myself with this, how much I've been hurting myself by judging. It's just like punching myself. So in the moment when we forgive ourselves for judging ourselves as fill in the blank, feel that, oh, and that should feel powerful, beautiful, sweet, right? And there may be a tinge of sadness of like, wow, look what I was doing for all this time. On the flip side, there's this feeling of like, wow, liberation. And it's a little bit like you've had the experience where you, with a friend or a partner or someone, and you've been in an argument, and then at a certain point, you're like, why are we doing this? And you go, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for that. And then maybe the other person goes, yeah, me too. And suddenly we drop the fight, we drop the anger. And it's like, oh, feels so much better. It's a relief, right? That's grace. That's forgiveness. That's magic. And we want to savor that and feel that. Then there's another step. And this is where it gets doubly cool. The next step is, right, to then use again some specific words. And you can change the words so they work for you. The next words are, when you're in that space. Now, by the way, that space, right? Forgive myself for judging myself as, oh, wow, okay, I let it go. 5 minutes later, an hour later, it might come back, right? Because we've got this habit of judging ourselves, of beating ourselves up. That thing might come back to us before long, right? Because of the habits there. This, though, I promise you, if you keep doing it, each time it'll get less, and judgments will be less until eventually they will be few and far between. And eventually, none at all. So great will become our love and acceptance of self, right? And I've said it for years, our job, all this work we do, is just to learn to fall in love with ourselves. And as we do that, just like Marianne Williamson says in her beautiful quotation about fear, when we do that, we automatically liberate other people. So we get into that space of forgiveness, feel that freedom for that moment. Then we say, for the truth is, I am, right? So we're not that, I'm not that self-judgment. The truth is I am, or you could, say for what's even more true is I am. And here's a really cool thing, y'all. When we use a sentence stem, right? A sentence stem, meaning a part of a sentence, then our brain, or maybe another part of us even, will fill in the blank with something even more powerful, right? Let me say that another way. I was distracted by looking at my screen, seeing if I could check it out. There we go. I can see better now. Even more powerful. What I mean by that is when we use the sentence stem, for what's even more true is that I am, the brain will fill in the blank, or maybe the spirit, or maybe the divine, or our higher self, or God, whatever you want to say. Maybe spirit will give you the answer. What's for sure true, though, is if we start the sentence, something will fill it, will finish it, right? Really, really powerful discovery and very useful tool in healing for self and for y'all that are coaches and healers, really powerful to use with others. And here's what happens. Again, we're in that space, right? Whatever judgments, they haven't come back yet. We're in that little space of freedom. We're in that bubble. And then we say, okay, this isn't true. This judgment isn't true. What is true? We ask and then listen, right? And you could call this prayer when we ask and then listen. For what's even more true is that I am, and it might be just as simple as the opposite, right? I'm not fat, or I am good enough. It might, though, come in a way surprising or with wording that you're not used to, right? And I've seen this happen myself, and I've seen it with many clients where the wording comes and it's not that they disagree with it in any way, they agree, but it's like, wow, I wouldn't have said that. For instance, go back to the example I gave you earlier. I'm on the scale. I realized that I was judging myself right before the number came up. And I'm lucky. I had a little bit of time that morning. So I was like, all right, let's take care of this right now. I, in the bathroom, closed the door, wanted to feel really safe. And I sat down on the toilet. There you go. TMI for you. Sat down on the toilet and I was like, wow, bit judging myself just now. And I forgive myself for judging myself. I did that process. Tears came. And then I said, for what's even more true is that I am. And then the words that came were perfect as God created me. Now, that may not seem like anything to you, like, yeah, okay, cool. And there's nothing about those terms that I disagree with. What was really interesting to me, though, is I don't usually speak that way. That's not the kind of language I use. I didn't grow up in religion. I didn't grow up in a Christian language basis. So I wouldn't normally speak that way. And what I've seen with many clients and friends is sometimes the words come in powerful ways. So you can be open to that. Again, the process is once you create the bubble, I forgive myself for judging myself as, then for what's even more true is I am. Speak those words, say those words, and then listen for the answer. Now, that brings us to a key component here. Get a little bit more to the recipe, and then I'll pause and see if you have any questions. A little bit more to the recipe is write that down, right? When you have that bubble moment, write it down. And you want to have two lists. One list is all the terrible shit I say about myself, all the stuff that I've been carrying, holding on to about myself. Right. And I know people that have done that 25, 30 pages worth of self-hate. That's all you can really call it. Self-hate, like negative self-judgment. On the other hand, I've had people do, not so many, a page, right? And sometimes it's over and over. It's the same thing again, or just variations on it. Doesn't matter. You want to take it out of the ether, out of the subconscious, put it on paper, write all that negative stuff down. And the other list is, for the truth is, I am, and fill in all those pieces, write down all those things that come to you too, because those become the basis for your new self creation, what I call your supreme self manifesto. And I'm not going to speak a lot about that one here. I have in other places. And if you want more info on that, drop a comment. I will get in touch. I'm happy to share more info with you about that. And record it. Now, all right, I'll pause. Let's see. If you are with me live, let me know if you have any thoughts or questions. If you're watching by rebroadcast, feel free to leave a comment. I will come back and check it out. Right. And if there's not, I want to share just a tiny bit more with you. And that is first a quotation. Right. There's a book called Unconditional Love and Forgiveness. Edith Stauffer, I think that's how you pronounce her name. And in her book, she says, forgiveness is a willingness to hold a certain attitude. It is a willingness to move forward. It is a willingness to be more comfortable and suffer less. It is a willingness to take responsibility for oneself and allow others to take responsibility for themselves, Forgiveness is a decision, powerful word. Forgiveness is a decision to not punish ourselves for the wrongs of others or other circumstances. It is a decision to re-enter the flow of love and life. And the last little part here, I'll share with you something that to me is really, really powerful. It's one of the most, I think it's one of the top 3 stories repeated from the Bible. And there's a reason why this story, which is the story of the prodigal son, is so often repeated. It is highly powerful and symbolic for us directly related to this. So in case you don't know the story, one variation of it anyway is like this, right? There's a wealthy man living a long time ago, 2 sons. One of his sons says, "Dad, I want my inheritance now. Give me the money. I'm out of here. I want to go travel abroad." So father says, okay, gives him the money. Kid goes, travels abroad, spends it lavishly, an extreme lifestyle, indulgent, goes through the money, ends up poor, ends up in real poverty, ends up really kind of wretched, and to the point that, as it says, he's looking at the pigs that he's finally taking care of and envying them, thinking their life is better than him. So finally, he admits his defeat and goes back home. Now, what would happen for most of us if we, say we're the son or the daughter, we go back home? What would we expect to find from our parents? Or if we've been in the parent role and our child has gone off and sinned, call it that, or has erred, or has done what we would not have advised, what would we say or do? Right? Well, the common way, what's most common, the way most of us have grown up thinking is, well, we would give them a lecture, or they would give us a lecture if we were in the other shoes, right? They got to learn from their mistake, and okay, I'll accept you back, but you're going to be punished. But that's not what happens in the story, right? In the story, and there's a couple key pieces here. In the story, the kid comes back, and the father had never really accepted in his own mind that the son had gone away. Right? He didn't want that separation. So even though he had left, and even though he'd heard some of the stories about what had happened, the father was always on the lookout, always hoping, waiting for his son to come back, as if he knew that he would come back. So when that day came and his father sees his son coming back, what does he do? Right? He doesn't make up his punishment. He actually literally runs toward his son. He doesn't wait for the son to come. He's so happy to see him. He runs toward his son, gives him a big hug, forgives him, right? Forgives him. Not only does he forgive him, he hears the apology that the son gives. He forgives him instantly. He gives his son a new ring, and the ring is a symbol of oneness restored, or atonement, right? Atonement, what does it mean? At one ment, right? And then takes off his dirty, soiled old rags of the clothes, has somebody burn those clothes, has his son gets bathed, gives him a new gown of whiteness, right? A white, pure silk robe, which symbolizes his purity. He's back with purity. Now, what's so beautiful about this is that, of course, it's symbolic for us, right? Whatever ways we have fallen off the path, and maybe what sin really means is ways of hurting ourselves, judging ourselves or judging others, right? So the ways that we have sinned doesn't keep us from heaven or the divine or oneness or our true self. It just keeps us away for a little while until we realize I can forgive myself. And in the same way, heaven or oneness or the bliss of union, it's never far away. It's always there, whether you think of it as spirit or God or your higher self, always there, ready to embrace you. And that really, to me, summarizes the power of forgiveness, and especially compassionate self-forgiveness. Again, it becomes the foundation for who we are creating ourselves to be, right? It's the foundation without which self-creation is nearly impossible. Now, I've given you the recipe. I've told you how to do it. If you want more, there are a couple great methodologies from Michael Singer from Byron Katie. Key, whatever way you do it, you can use the words and the process I shared with you. You can use theirs. The key, though, is the feeling of it. I actually have to feel it. All right, and I think that's enough for me to say on this. I will pause just to see in case there are any thoughts or questions. And I see a comment from Michael. Awesome. Let's see what it says. Give me a hug. Oh, thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate that. I'm with you. Virtual hug to you. Yeah. So and that's really what this forgiveness is all about. It's like giving ourselves a hug, just like we would do with our own child, just like our Father in heaven, if you use that language, is always ready to do with us, eagerly waiting for us to come back. So, and I say those words again as a guy who didn't grow up with a religion, who's not associated with any particular religion. However, they work, they fit. And it was a big breakthrough for me years ago when I realized, hey, I can find God even in a church. My issues with religion were over, and I find spirit is available everywhere. All right. I think enough said, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, whether it's live or by rebroadcast, feel free to comment if you want more information. Awesome. And if you can join next time live, awesome, because then we can interact more and I can be of greater assistance to you. So please stay tuned. Hey, and if you're watching this nearby now, this is, where are we? December 22nd. On December 30th, I've got an amazing mastery session called the magic of the magic of manifesting your express ticket to everything you want and more. And this is goal setting to the nth degree. It's like the souped up version of goal setting, and it's a process. It's not me teaching something, it's us doing a process together. So you will create 2024 in powerful ways. That's on December 30th, also on January 3, so you can choose which date works for you. Awesome, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you. I love you. And please make your life a masterpiece. Aloha.